Chapter 10. Nico's Pav. I stared down at the slave boy. The one who not only told me that I had to go see Lord Bronwyn again, but that I had to take Chloe with me as well. I hadn't noticed that my grip had substantially tightened on the door until the slave's eyes flickered to my hand for a short moment. "Will do." I shut the door before he could say anything else. Why the hell would he need to see me again? And with my pet? I literally met with him last night. It's not like he hasn't piled me with enough work already. I turned to see Chloe wide-eyed on the couch. Her breaths had already speed up enough for me to know that she was panicking if her nails digging into the couch didn't tell me anything. This is exactly why I didn't want to take her in the first place. I sighed as I made my way over to the desk to retrieve her leash. "Chloe," I said in an act to grab her attention. It was successful, except that her terrified expression had now shifted to me. She shrunk back deeper into the couch as I lifted her leash into my hands. What does he want with me?" she stuttered. Her voice was quiet enough that I don't think a human could have heard it. I shrugged, taking a couple steps towards her. "I have no idea, but I want to get this over with as soon as possible, so come here." She did, eventually. It probably would have been faster if I went to her, but oh well. Her trembling became more apparent as she stepped closer to me. I'm surprised she could even walk. She kept her eyes on the ground as I attached her leash and headed towards the door. I pretty much had to drag Chloe up to the Lord's room. She didn't even dare look up as I approached the large double doors guarded by two of the Lord's favorite ego-filled guards. I stopped right in front of the guards, waiting for them to let me in. They both glanced at Chloe for a moment before focusing on me. "State your business, Nicholas." The one on the left barked. I rolled my eyes. This guy always pissed me off. I really didn't want to deal with this right now. "Your guess is as good as mine, buddy." The one on the left glared at me while the other one smirked a bit in amusement. "The Lord sent for him like 5 minutes ago, idiot," he said. The one on the left huffed as he leaned back against the wall. "What the hell could Lord Bronwyn want with you 2 days in a row?" Did I not already tell him that I didn't know? I gave the leash a slight tug, signaling Chloe that we were about to start walking. "I don't know." I made my way towards the door, setting my hand upon it to let myself in. "Maybe he realized how incompetent you are and needed someone to actually get something done." I barely heard a low growl from my left before I let myself into the Lord's chambers. Chloe let out a sharp gasp as the door slammed shut. I sighed quietly to myself as I was met with Lord Bronwyn's shit-eating grin and his golden eyes. They were pretty much the only bright thing in this room since he preferred to live in the darkness. Due to that, Chloe's human eyes probably couldn't see more than a few feet in front of her. That would probably freak her out even more, and even more so because she could only see the Lord's eyes. That is if she even decided to look up. Lord Bronwyn's chuckle echoed through the room from his throne that sat upon a couple stairs. "It's so nice to see you again, Sir Vanderwood." He spoke. His smooth, deep voice was already laced with confidence. "Fantastic. What do you want?" I questioned. "God, I really don't want to be here again." He just chuckled again, leaning forward a bit on his throne. "Now, is that any way to talk to your lord?" He cocked his head. "On a normal occasion, no, but I really didn't plan on faking formality 2 days in a row." I cleared my throat a bit. "My apologies, my lord." I gave a small bow, hoping that Chloe would get the idea and give one as well. "What can I do for you?" He was pleased with my new response, amused even. Chapter 11. I had to fight back the growl that threatened to leave my throat as I stepped forward. "So you want me to kill her?" I barked. I could hear Chloe's breath hitch as she took a small step back. Lord Bronwyn only smirked. "You won't kill her if you do it right." I tisked. "Doing it right isn't what I'm worried about. I'm perfectly capable of doing right, but Chloe isn't capable of surviving it. In order for me to pull off a Class 3 hemorrhage without killing her, the blood in her body would have to be going at a regular pace to begin with. Knowing Chloe, I'm fully aware that that is not the case for her right now. And killing her was not something that I had planned for a while. "I refuse," I stated. I didn't spend good money on a pet just to kill it a couple days later. Lord Bronwyn's eyes narrowed as some of the tension left Chloe's shoulders. Why? Chloe flinched as I placed my hand on her back, preventing her from stepping further back. Great, now I have to come up with some bullshit excuse. He wouldn't like my actual reasons. I have no intention of drinking from a live host until the blood moon, I stated. Lord Bronwyn kept his gaze on me as silence enveloped the room, save for Chloe's shaky deep breaths. I see, he hissed before his smirk quickly returned to his face. Then let me retrieve one of my guards, I'm sure they'd be more than happy to do it. A growl did escape my throat this time as I felt myself tense up. There's no way in hell I'm going to let anyone touch my pet. Lord Bronwyn stood, making a move to go get one of the guards outside. Wait, I spoke. Lord Bronwyn stopped where he was, a pleased smirk residing on his face. Chloe hesitantly glanced up at me, pure fear and regret evident on her face. Yes? Lord Bronwyn asked as he stepped back towards his throne. I glared at him as he sat back down like he already knew what I was about to say. I'll do it. Any tension that had left Chloe's body just returned in the blink of an eye. Lord Bronwyn leaned his head onto his hand as his elbow rested on the armrest. Get on with it then. He chimed. I glanced down at Chloe. Her eyes seemed to be glued to the ground as her entire body trembled with fear. My tongue grazed against my fangs as I let out a sigh. This is going to suck, for her especially. It's already bad enough that her first bite will be this extreme. I planned on taking the whole, feeding from her, thing slower for her. It takes trust in order to have a fairly decent pet. And yet she might not even live through this given her current condition. Chloe. I noticed the tear that ran down her face as she fearfully turned her head towards me. At this point, she may as well be having a panic attack. She sure looked like she was. I chewed the inside of my bottom lip a bit. Perhaps I could use that to my advantage. I knelt down onto one knee, turning Chloe's body towards my own. My hope was that kneeling would put less strain on her. And that her having to look down at me might make me seem less intimidating, even though I knew that that was pretty much worthless given the situation. Her eyes were begging me not to as I tucked her hair behind her shoulders exposing her pale neck. Lord Bronwyn probably would have made me take from her neck anyway. I scanned over her neck, trying to decide which vein or artery would make this be over sooner. The carotid artery would probably be my best bet given the current situation. Chloe's eyes squeezed shut as I pulled her down against me, causing more tears to fall down her face. She completely fell against me as I pulled her neck down towards me. Her knees apparently gave out from the fear. I was the only thing holding her up now. Feeling her body tremble against mine made me feel even worse about this. Punishing pets when they've done absolutely nothing wrong wasn't really my thing. I turned my head up to Lord Bronwyn, eyes narrowing at his huge grin. Chloe's hands gripped my shirt the best they could, her eyes shooting open as my hand found its way into her hair, turning. Chapter 12. I ignored the two guards as I threw the doors open, evidently scaring the one on the left. Hell, I ignored everyone. Chloe's skin was beginning to feel cooler, even to me. If her skin is cooler than mine, then that's definitely not a good sign. I rushed even faster down the spiral stairs. I paused on one of the steps, stopping one of the castle's slaves by grabbing his shoulder. His eyes flickered to Chloe before settling onto me, keeping his usual calm demeanor. "What can I do for you, sir?" He recited his typical line. "Have a glass of B negative delivered to my room as soon as possible," I commanded. I doubt he knew how serious I was about as soon as possible. The boy nodded. Right away. With that, I continued back down to my room. I barely paid attention to the stares I was getting from others. An unconscious pet was fairly common within this castle, so I don't see what the big deal is. As soon as I made it to my floor, my evolved speed carried me the rest of the way to my door and into my room. I didn't have a lot of time to waste here. I carefully laid Chloe onto the couch, noticing how much paler she had gotten. Her breaths were quiet. I blew out a long breath and shrugged off my vest, rolling up my sleeves as I made my way into my bathroom. I may as well get the things I need while I wait for the blood to arrive. It's been a while since I've done a blood transfusion, but the process was simple enough that I doubt I could do it wrong. I paused for a second once I saw my reflection. It had been so long since I had fed from a live host that I forgot what I looked like after I did. My eyes had lost their green color, instead being replaced with a deep red. My skin had changed its color as well, adding some shade to my naturally pale skin. Something about drinking straight from something alive did this to us, that and the wave of pleasure and satisfaction we feel while doing it. I wasn't quite sure how it happened or why it only happened when we take blood fresh. My tongue rubbed against the top of my mouth, the taste of her blood still lingering in my mouth. It was pretty much the only thing about humans that I didn't understand. I exhaled, snapping myself back to the task at hand and throwing open the large cabinet. It was more cluttered than I remember it being. I quickly shuffled through the clutter of needles and pills, grabbing the IV once I found it. I placed the IV between my teeth and continued to look for the blood bag. Please tell me that I have one. I'd hate to have to do this by hand. It's so time-consuming that way. I ended up having to take everything out of the damn cabinet in order to find it. Of course it was in the very back. Partially frustrated, I grabbed it, headed out of the bathroom, leaving the mess there for now. Damn it, where the hell is that blood? I set the blood bag near Chloe's feet, clicking it into the IV so that it was snug before going to remove her collar. Only then did I notice the tear streaks that were still evident on her face. It was so different seeing that level of fear in her. I've seen her fear ever since I bought her, but all of that was nothing compared to what I saw after I said that I'd feed from her. My head snapped to the side as I heard a knock on the door. It's about time. I quickly went to the door and opened it. A different slave than the one I talked to stood there, a large glass of blood sitting on the tray that he held in his hand. "Your order, sir," he said, bowing as he held the tray towards me. I took the glass from the tray, examining it for a second. "This should be enough." I uttered a thanks to the boy before closing the door. I twirled the glass before bringing the brim to my lips, making sure that it was actually B negative. Sometimes the slaves mess up and I didn't want to risk the life of my pet by giving her the wrong blood. It was indeed B negative, but the taste had nothing compared to Chloe's. With that, I made my way back over to her, quickly filling up the blood bag and setting